If you think I found all the clever Amazon sewing tools in my last video, well, think again. I have a brand new list of surprising and affordable tools that will make your sewing easier, faster, and more fun. Some of them are things that you may already own, and others were gadgets I didn't even know existed but wanted to give them a try. And by the way, if you're wondering what supplies are worth having in your sewing space, aka the essentials, I've put together a free sewing supplies list you can grab in the description. It's a great companion to this video because it covers all the essentials and it keeps you from wasting money on things you don't need. We're starting out with household items that weren't designed for sewing at all, but really make great tools when you bring them into your sewing room. The first thing we'll talk about are these little cute baby clippers. They're very small, they are very sharp, so they're a great tool to snip those threads. As you're sewing along, they get close to the edge, so you get a nice clean cut. I have had an issue with snips. In my prior video, I talk about all the snips that I've bought over time. So I have all these snips, and these first two that I had were just not sharp. So, they were a definite no-go. I always have these little tiny snips. Many of you have these, and these are great, but trying to get your fingers in there is a little awkward. So those aren't great. I did finally purchase these, and they are really sharp and they're great. And I have been trying to use them more and to get them into my habit. And I think they are starting to become a habit. But if you don't want to spend the money on buying snips, you probably have a pair of nail clippers in your house already, whether you have a baby one or just a regular nail clippers, and they're a great tool, so you don't have to spend money on another pair. This may be one of my favorites. This is a set of 3 of these magnetic bowls, and they're originally intended to hold screws and nuts and bolts, those sorts of things. So you get them in the hardware section. So you get 3 different sizes in the pack. They cost a total of $10. And so I think that's a really great price. You can see I put here some of my pins. They're really attached here. I put my pins in these, and this one is great I have these weights to hold my pattern and fabric down. So I have those. I never really had a great place to put that. I do have this magnetic pin cushion that I purchased prior, and I love this. I think it's quite nice. It's plastic though, so sometimes the metal looks really nice depending on your decor. And this one cost $14, which included the pins. These are the pins that came with this set. I do not like these pins. They're cheap and they have plastic ends. I like the pearl end pins and better quality pins, a little thinner so they don't make such a big hole. This one cost me $14, and I would consider it without the pins because I don't think the pins are worth anything. So you get a set of 3 for this one for less money. So I love it. So you might want to consider using this. And I think a lot of people like the metal as well. This next one I also just absolutely love. It's this little lint roller. So you pop it off here, and it has this little lint roller under here. So you can keep this right next to your sewing machine. So if you are ripping out some seams, you often will get all those little tiny threads that you've cut with the seam ripper. And so you can just rub this over your fabric and get all those little pieces off. Also, the serger often causes a bunch of fluff all over the place, so you can use it there too. So I think there's so many uses for this, and this is so adorable. This whole thing cost $8, and it included 4 extra lint rollers. So I think these would last, a fairly long time, and it just looks so cute to have on your table to grab whenever you need it. So we all get this stiff little brush with our machine, whether our regular sewing machine or our serger, we get a brush like this. But it's also great to use a makeup brush. So I like this angled one. It really helps you get into those crevices and those hard to get places. It gives you a little bit more room to really like brush up all those little lint pieces that are coming out of your machine. So I don't think you need to purchase a brush. Many of us buy these sets of brushes and we always will have one like smaller one that we don't really have a use for. So check your drawers. You might already have a brush you haven't used for a while. You could clean it and use it for this instance. So, and it looks nice too. You can get one that has a really nice look to stick it in your bucket to use moving forward. So I just love this idea to as my lint brush. And in our sewing room, we all have those drawers that are chocked full of zippers or bias bindings or any kind of notion, buttons and snaps, and they're just scattered everywhere. So I had purchased these. I actually was reorganizing my bathroom and I had some extra ones. So I brought it over to the sewing room and I'm going to put all my little things in here and keep that orderly. So whether you just purchase these for your sewing room or if you have some leftovers like me, I think it's a great idea. I got a really big pack of these for $18. So it was many more than this. This is just my leftover amount. So it's really affordable and I like to be organized. So I think it's a great way to keep yourself organized and putting everything in these small little containers. So we all have to transfer our pattern markings onto our fabric. So there's many ways to do that. Of course, chalk is an excellent way to do that, but sometimes I like to use erasable pens. And this is my favorite brand here. I guess it's Frixion, Frixion. These are great. They erase with heat. So, and they have different colors. You can see I have used several of them. They last a really long time. This pack here costs $24 for the entire pack, but I've had this for absolute years. And you can see I haven't even gotten through all the colors. So I would say chalk and these pens are my two favorite ways to transfer any markings from my pattern onto my fabric. I mention so often in all my videos how pressing is so vital at each step of the way. It's very important to press your seams. And I found this adorable mini travel iron. I just love the aesthetic and I love the color and the size is fabulous. So I do have a ironing board in my laundry room right next door to my sewing room. So it's really pretty quick and easy for me to go there. But for those people who maybe their ironing board is not set up all the time or it's further away from where they sew, it would just be so great to have a little tiny iron like this that you can put right next to your sewing machine, and it'll just make it that much easier, have less resistance to iron after every seam. So I just absolutely love this. And this iron cost $20. So it was quite reasonable and it might just really help you press as you go. And behind me, I have these two LED lights that I absolutely love. I bought two because I want one in front of my serger and one right in front of my sewing machine. They're excellent because then I have light just where I need it. So they're definitely, I don't just use the overhead light. I like to have the light right next to my machine. They also are really great because I can charge my phone on the base of them, and they have some USB ports on the side. So I just love these. So I've bought several of them for other places in the house too. I think they're quite useful. They came out to be a total of $40 a piece. So they're not super inexpensive, but I've had mine for years. They're going to last you for a really long time. So I think having ample light while you're sewing is so important. Now let's switch gears to tools that are actually made for sewing, but I just was unaware of them and didn't have them. So I purchased a few just to give them a try. So just talking about having really good light, I think this is quite clever. It's a seam ripper that has a light on it, so you can see right where you're working, and it also has this magnifying. And I have to admit, sometimes when I'm sewing a very small stitch length, it's very hard to get your seam ripper underneath that seam to give it a rip, and that is so frustrating. So with this, it will really help you magnify that seam. And I just get so upset when I'm like rip into the fabric instead of the actual thread, and then I put a hole in my fabric. It's very challenging. So I think this will be really useful to have this lighted seam ripper. So many of us battle trying to thread a needle. It's like the needle heads are so small, it's really hard to see. Your thread might have those little fuzzies on the end and you're just struggling. I found these, I've never known about them before. So it comes in this really, really nice looking case. And inside are several needles. This whole thing only cost me $5. So I think there's about 10 needles in here, and you pull it out and you have this needle, and you just have to, there's like a hole in the top. So you just pull it down the top, and it has this little, it allows you to push it right down in there. And here you've already threaded your needles. I think it's super clever, and I just love this. So if it's something that you struggle with to thread your hand needles, give this one a try. So in my last Amazon video, I showed you this boat that holds your bobbins, and I love this. I've had this for a while. This is how I store my bobbins, but I always have to go over. I have them over here in my cart. I found this interesting. It has magnets on the bottom, and you can put these bobbins on here, stack them up. Now, the intention is that these magnets would then adhere. You can put it on your sewing machine, but my sewing machine is all plastic, so it didn't work on my sewing machine. You could find something else that was metal and keep it on there, but you can see when it's something plastic, it's just not going to work. So I don't think this is going to be useful to me, but I'm sure you could potentially find something metal, or maybe your machine is metal. I think the intention is that it's supposed to be on your machine. So it's a clever idea. It would keep, if you could put this on your machine, it would keep them really handy. You could keep it on the table right next to your machine too. It's not a bad idea. I'm probably going to stick with my bobbin boats here. I like them, but just another way of potentially storing your bobbins. And we talked about a couple different ways of storing your pins. And here's another, I know a lot of people use this. I've just never used a wrist holder for my pins. This is magnetic here, and you can take your pins and just hold it here. I do think there's a lot of value in this. You don't have to search out your pin cushion. And just as you're taking the pins out as you're sewing, you can just throw them here. It does make it easier because it's more in reach. So I definitely plan to use this one more. It's quite common, but I really like it. And if you haven't checked out episode 1 of my amazing Amazon sewing finds, check out this video here. And which one was your favorite? Let us know in the comments below. And if you have any hacks of great tools that I haven't mentioned, please let us know. And if you've enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe.